Everyone. My name is Alexandra. I'm the money counselor at Mohawk College. I'm part of the Mo Money Financial Literacy Resource Center, and Mo Money is part of the Financial Assistance Department. I'm going to be explaining a little bit more about Mo Money later. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this presentation today. I want to start by doing a land acknowledgement. Can you move to the next slide, please, Kai? Okay. So I just like to take this opportunity to acknowledge that Mohawk College is situated on the traditional and unceded territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe nations within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon, One Poon agreement, and is currently home to many indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. So now I just want to share with you what is Mo Money and what we do at Mo Money. So we are part of the Financial Assistance Department, as I said, and we are a student money management center. We are focused on two main goals. The first goal is help students develop critical financial skills. And the second one is provide the students with the resources and training to use those skills. So how we can accomplish those goals? So we basically have three ways to accomplish our goals. The first one is one-on-one money counseling. So if you have any financial concern or anything that you want to discuss with me as the money counselor, you can book an appointment. It's a free and confidential appointment where we can work in your budget, debt management, any financial concern you may have. Is a one-on-one session where I will be focused just on your information, your numbers, your goals. I want to improve my credit score. I don't know what to do with my debt. I don't know what to do to pay my tuition. I'm kind of having issues with my budget. So I'm here to help you one-on-one on those topics. Then we do events and workshops. We are constantly planning events and workshops like this one to help you with your process of learning more about financial stuff like today. So just follow us on social media, visit our website, and we are constantly posting our events and workshops. At the end, I will share the next workshops that we have planned for you guys. And the third thing we do is we provide some financial resources. If you visit our website, you will see a lot of financial resources. And we have one really important resource that is the Money Matters module. So if you go into your Canvas, you can access the module. It's a really good tool to help you improve your financial skills. So this is what we do. How can you connect with us? The next slide, please. So you can follow us on social media. You can see our handles on Instagram and Facebook. We also have a YouTube channel where we post all the videos and all the workshops that we have done in the past. You can also access, as I said, the Money Matters module through my Canvas courses. You can book an appointment with me. You can join us for an event. And sometimes some of the professors from faculty, they request workshops so we can go to your classes and present some of the financial topics. Now I want to share with you the benefits of attending our workshops. So first of all, in addition to learning new skills and information, You can also add this session to your co-curricular record. If you don't know what is that, the CCR is to help you add to your resume when you are applying for jobs or you are applying for awards and a scholarship. So it's good to add every volunteer experience you have, any workshops that you attend, different than the normal academic stuff. So please register. We will leave the link on the chat. You need to enter the code More Money for Me and register. You can also have the chance to win prizes. CFI has been very generous in offering a chance to win one of 450 Tim Hortons gift cards. You just need to complete the pre-survey and then the post-survey at the end of the workshop to be entered into the draft. And also, if you attend sessions of this series, you are also going to be entered into a draw to win $250 in cash. And if you attend 4 out of the 6 sessions, you will also be eligible to earn a financial advocacy badge. So now I'm going to just pass it over to Lindsay from the Mohawk College Alumni Association, who is going to share with you some important information about the association.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Lindsay Diamond, pronouns she, her, and I work in the Alumni Relations Office. It's very exciting to see so many students and grads in the audience today. So welcome, everyone. I'm very excited to learn with everyone today. So just a little bit about alumni. So alumni is here to connect you with other alumni. Our alumni, we have over 140,000 graduates to date. So it's a great way to network and connect with fellow grads, as well as we have lots of services and programs available. So the best way to stay connected with alumni and to see what we're up to is follow us on social media. So we're on all major platforms, so Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So we target all of our events, such as trivia nights, career development workshops, webinars, such as the one today. We target everything to students, recent grads, and grads of all generations. Specifically for students in the audience today who are graduating this year, keep an eye out. Starting in March, we are going to be launching our grad send-off. So this is where you'll be able to enter some draws and get a free grad gift and learn a lot about what alumni is all about. And then for all alumni in our audience, don't forget to download our Perks app that has all of our discounts and contests in there, as well as we promote all of our events and stuff. So once you graduate, you'll get access to that Perks app. Next slide, Kyle. And then,
Okay.
so it is my honor to pass it over to Kyle to take over our presentation.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming today. That's our next slide. We'll talk about that later. That's going to be for our next seminar. So bear with me here, folks, while I pull up our presentation for today. Okay, so welcome to today's workshop. Thanks, Lindsay, for the introduction. My name is Kyle Datskew. I graduated from Mohawk in 2016 from general business. I currently work at Mercedes-Benz in St. Catharines. I'm a financial services manager here. So I'm responsible for all the fun stuff. So after you bought the car, you come and see myself in the finance office, and we deal with ensuring that we get you set up with your financing or your leasing or whatever it is that you'll be doing to purchase your vehicle. So nice and busy. And what we've got here, a really exciting presentation, and one that I've got some interest in personally, is I'm in probably the same boat as a lot of our participants today, where I'm looking to see how am I going to be able to buy my first home. So the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education is pleased to partner with the National Bank of Canada to provide a series of workshops to help post-secondary school students across the country get a better handle on their money. Today's topic is buying your first home, and we're going to give you an overview of all the pieces that go into buying your first home. This workshop is going to last about an hour, and then we'll have a live Q&A, questions and answers for about 30 minutes at the end of the presentation. Lindsay's going to give me a hand that if anything pops up in the chat, if you have any questions, please stop me as we're going. I'd love for this to be an interactive conversation and hope that everyone involved today gets something out of attending. So these workshops are intended to serve as a foundational resource to get you thinking about your finances, and they're not a final step in your financial journey. Consider the information and see how you can apply it to the concepts covered to your personal financial situation. Also, please understand that while we do our best to answer all related questions, we will not be discussing topics kind of beyond the scope of today's conversation. If you have any specific questions that we're unable to address, please consider setting up an appointment with a financial professional like we just went over. We even have that available at Mohawk through the Mo Money Resource Center. Please make sure you sent out the pre-survey that we had sent to you. There will be a post-survey sent at the end of the session as well. If you fill out both, you'll be entered into a draw for one of our 4 $50 Tim Hortons gift cards chosen among the eligible students from this semester. And don't worry, we're not going to use your email for anything other than a draw. Nothing worse than when you enter a contest and then they use your email for everything else. So we're only going to use it for the draw. So don't worry about that. Please ensure that you fill out the survey. It's important for us so that we can ensure that we're offering beneficial programming. Now, I just want to make a quick note kind of as we get started here. This isn't going to be a seminar where we're going to talk about how if you want to be able to buy your first home, you really got to tighten down your bootstraps and cancel your Disney Plus subscription and everything like that. That's not what this is about. This is about how can we help with some information to allow you to work smarter and not harder to be able to buy your first home. And we're also going to be covering that maybe homeownership isn't everything it's cracked up to be. And there is nothing wrong with renting or leasing a place as that's what I do currently as well. So let's get right into it. So the Canadian Financial, the CFEE and the National Bank have partnered to offer the financial literacy portion. So in the first half of 2020, we asked students about their priority and what they wanted to learn more about. Nearly 1,500 students answered our survey from 94 different post-secondary institutions. And when we asked that, this is what we found out. Our research identified that nearly 2/3 of students are currently dealing with financial stress. Plus 55% of students are looking for help building a financially healthy life. Also, over half of the students wanted help managing a major expenditure. So a house, a car, those types of things. We hear your concerns and we understand your challenges. That's why we put together today's presentation. Buying your first home is likely going to be the largest expenditure in your life. So hopefully this workshop will help you understand what is involved in buying a house and where you can get some help to alleviate some of that financial stress. So what are we going to talk about today? Today, we're going to talk about 3 major topics. First, we'll discuss the costs and pros and cons of renting a home versus buying a home. There are many trade-offs to consider when considering the purchase of a home, and we'll try to make sure you've thought through and are aware of all those things before proceeding with the purchase. And there are a lot of steps to buying a house. So one of the key ones to be aware of before you start to look around at houses is how much you can realistically afford. There are a lot of components to this aspect, so we will cover those in sufficient detail so that you shouldn't have sticker shock, if you will, when purchasing. Lastly, there are a lot of government programs available for first-time buyers and professionals that are available to help you make what will likely be the biggest purchase of your life a little bit easier and less overwhelming. So keeping those 3 things in mind, our learning objectives today, when you've left this seminar, what our hopes are is that you'll have a much better understanding of how much you can spend on a house, okay? The multitude of government programs that are there to assist you. I know sometimes it feels overwhelming and you don't know what help is out there, but there is some, believe me when I say that. And the other service providers who can help you in this major purchase. So our first topic, rent versus buy. Okay. So there are a lot of trade-offs to buying or renting a home. So costs, mobility, repairs, etc. Roughly 2/3 of Canadians own their own home, but it's not something that everyone will do. Given the increase in house prices, it might be better for many Canadians to consider renting versus owning. So when we look at that, here's what we're going to cover when we look at the costs and the pros and cons of each. So we've got a quick Zoom poll for you. So this will come up in the chat. We're going to get this going to come your way. Do you intend to buy a house? I know it maybe seems like a wild question. You know, do you already own a home? Do you expect to buy in the next year? Do you expect to buy in the next 3 years, the next 5 years, or do you never expect to buy a house? There's no wrong answer here. I very fondly think of my grandmother when I think of this question. She's rented her whole life. She's very, very happy to do that because she's never had to cut the lawn a day in her life. So there's not a wrong answer here, and we're excited to see maybe what people's thoughts are before we head into this seminar today.
Okay, we'll give it about 5 more seconds and then I'll share the results, Kyle.
That's awesome. Thank you, Craig. We need the is it the Jeopardy? We need the Jeopardy music playing here.
Sorry,
Okay,
I missed that.
perfect. Okay, so what do we have here? So we've got okay, this is awesome. So we've got, you know, hopefully some folks here that expect to buy in the next year or so. The majority of our poll and those attendees today expect to buy in the next 3 years, a couple that expect to buy in the next 5 years, and some that never expect to buy a house. And I'll tell you, those two folks that, you know, never expect to buy a house, I feel that sometimes, you know, renting right now, I love without the maintenance. And also sometimes it feels like it's just not something that's available to us. So thanks everyone for polling in that. And what's nice is that we don't have anybody here yet who owns a house. So this is all hopefully helpful for everybody involved. Okay. So as we look at renting and the ongoing cost to rent, when you rent, you might not directly pay all the costs. Be aware that the owner or landlord who you're renting from is probably renting to you to earn a profit on their investment. This will not directly be observable in any of the costs that you pay because it's going to be all put into one cost for you. Often items like property tax and property insurance are included in your monthly rent, but you pay just that one amount for rent. Rest assured though, you are paying those costs in the monthly rent if your landlord has priced the rental of the property properly. Now, keep in mind when I say that though, you also will pay for renters or tenants insurance, which would be more for the contents than the building itself, and will be much cheaper than property insurance, which would cover replacing the building structure if it, say, burned down. Now, on that note there, while we're talking about renting, I 10 out of 10 times cannot stress enough, you should always have tenant insurance. It's typically fairly reasonable cost-wise when you look at the cost of your rent. I have about an 800 square foot apartment, and my tenant insurance is about $30 a month. For me, it's a must-have because being in an apartment building or being in a downstairs of a building or whatever the case may be, you can't control your neighbors around you. So I've always felt it's very important to have tenant insurance, and that's my thought on that exactly. Now, as we look at repairs, you know, you may or may not be responsible for some repair costs, but you know, you may have to replace a light bulb or something like that. But you likely wouldn't be responsible to pay for major expenses, say if the building needed a new roof, a water heater, etc. That's some of the benefits, you know, when you look at the ongoing costs to rent. Now, when we compare that directly to the ongoing costs to own, when you own a house, you pay all these costs directly. So a mortgage, right off the go, is the loan that you take from a financial institution, where the financial institution gives you the money to be able to buy the house above and beyond your down payment, of course. This is a form of a secured loan, okay, as the lender can take your house if you don't make your payments. A secured loan will thus tend to have a lower interest rate. For example, credit card is a higher interest rate because it's not secured. There's nothing that they can come and take necessarily if you weren't to pay on that debt. When you pay your mortgage, your monthly payment includes the principal. Okay, so we're paying back the original loan and the interest. In the early years of your mortgage, your monthly payment is unfortunately mostly going to go to interest. And that's just going to be the case for most people buying a home. So don't worry, don't feel too bad about that. It feels like you're not paying down the principal. That's the case for the majority of people when they're in the mortgage for the first few years. Your mortgage payment will have a component for paying back the loan, the principal payment, and the interest on the loan. So while you don't pay interest directly when renting, the landlord has likely priced in a return on their investment into the monthly rent, which would likely be more than the interest you pay on your mortgage. Okay. Also, to get to that mortgage, you need to make a large dollar amount down payment. We will cover down payments later. We'll go over that whole topic, but that can be one of the bigger challenges for people buying their first home. I know personally that's my biggest hurdle right now is I have my ongoing daily expenses, yet I'm still trying to save for a home. So we're gonna cover that in a bit. When you own a home, if the furnace conks out in the middle of the night, in the middle of January, you're responsible to contact the repair person, pay them, and then the cost and time to replace the furnace if it must be replaced, right? Whereas if you're renting, that wouldn't necessarily be the case. So something to keep in mind when we're looking at the ongoing cost to own. So when we look at the pros and cons of buying a house, so we've already discussed costs, but you may need an emergency fund as well. So you save all your money to be able to have your down payment, but you need to probably have you need to make sure you have an emergency fund available as well, right? So you can ensure that if something were to happen with the furnace, you get a leaky roof, whatever the case may be, you're in a position where you can afford to cover that. So we will cover down payments later, as I've mentioned that, but you want to be able to, when we talk about build up equity in your home, that's the idea that, as you pay down the monthly mortgage, you're paying down the original loan amount, and then hence when you sell, you've built up equity. Okay, so hopefully your home is, if you're in a position where house prices go up, and this is your principal residence, then the gains are tax-free when you sell the house. Thus, a house can be a very good investment, mind you, if prices don't go down, which we have seen over the last few months. So it's not a perfect investment, nothing is, but usually a fairly safe investment. Paying a mortgage and the other cost of owning a home will likely cost you more than renting. So due to this, and given that we have a set amount of monthly income, right? If the costs fluctuate, like when you own a home, your income is probably not going to fluctuate. Your income is probably going to be what it is monthly. So that's where we talk about having an emergency fund and everything like that. From your perspective, and I'll throw this to the chat for a minute. Is there any other maybe pros and cons here that we've missed of compared to buying a home, compared to renting? If you're renting right now, is there anything that you really, really enjoy about renting? What do you fear as the biggest con about renting or owning a home? So if I can get just three spots if I can get 3 responses in the chat here, and we'll keep it moving along. But if we could get just some feedback in terms of what folks think might be some of that, and then we can keep moving along here. Don't make me play the Jeopardy music, folks, because I will. I can't just be talking to myself all day long. Anybody here have some thoughts on some of the pros of renting compared to the cons of home ownership? Okay, so Kyle. Oh, great name. Put on a smile, vote for Kyle. I think the largest reason why I want to buy a home is that I can probably sell it and use the money to retire. Kyle, I agree with you. And the hardest thing with home ownership is getting your foot in the door with the first one. Once you got the first one, it kind of snowballs from there. And I love that, is a big part of a lot of my dad's friends' retirement plan is selling their home because it's been paid off for years and using that equity to retire. So I like that. Yeah, and Tiffany, well said as well. The monthly payments may increase year after year. A lot of places where you rent, your rent is locked. There's only a certain amount that they can increase it year over year. Whereas if we're going to talk about this later, whereas if you were in a variable mortgage or anything like that, those prices could go up. Celeste, another great point. You can move easily when renting. Yes, absolutely. If you own the home, it's not just pack up and move. What if you're in a position where you've lost money on the home, right? What if you're in a position where you bought a year ago and now your job has changed, you need to go somewhere else, but home prices in the area have gone down. Now you're in a position where it's not as easy to just move on and go to that new place for work. Whereas when you rent, you can just kind of pack up and go within reason, right? Awesome points. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate everyone chiming in here. All right, we'll keep it moving along. So some of the key takeaways that we want to take from that session is, costs are different between renting and owning. It's much more important to have a larger emergency fund if you buy, due to the potential larger costs, like we said, needing a new roof, furnace, water heater, etc. You're going to be responsible for all that. And there's many pros to owning a house. So yeah, we don't want to focus on the negative. There is a lot of reasons that we do want to own a home, and there are many pros that go along with that. But there's cons to owning one as well. So it goes both ways. There's a lot of good things about buying a house, but like we said, let's not lose sleep over the fact that we don't own one yet. Okay, there are some cons as well. So let's move on and let's talk about what is going to be involved in buying a house, because as we saw in our Zoom poll earlier today, there's a lot of us that hope to buy sooner rather than later. So getting ready to buy. As mentioned earlier, one of the key aspects is to get a good handle on, before starting to look at online listings and going to open houses, now that we're post-COVID, is how much house you can truly afford. There's lots of pieces to be able to get to that magic number. Now, it doesn't mean you can't go window shopping or daydreaming online. I know sometimes at work here when it's quiet, I love to go look at the MLS and look at the listings and see what house I'm going to buy when they call my Lotto Max numbers. But anyway, there's some steps here we'll talk about in getting ready to buy a house within your price range. One thing to be aware of, and this kind of builds on that, is that we have a tendency, once we have that number, kind of that special magic number that we have in our head of what we can afford, is to stretch a little bit, right? So it's like, okay, I can afford this, $400,000 home, but if I'm already at 400,000, can I afford 450,000? So be very careful with that. Even with the best planning, there will likely be some unexpected costs. So do your best not to stretch too much. There's obviously there's going to be some of that, and that is what it is. But do your best not to stretch so much that you can't afford the house. You can't truly afford the house that you do end up buying, as it is very expensive to sell a house. And as best as possible, you want to ensure you can live in the house that you buy for several years. Okay, so we're going to go back to the Zoom poll. So I'll have my good friend Craig set that up for us again. So no wrong answers. We're all here learning today. What is the minimum down payment you need to buy a house under 500,000? Okay, and we'll see what the thoughts are. We'll get I'll do the Jeopardy music myself. And we'll leave this up for a minute or two here and see what we can see what we get back as our answers. A few years ago would have got this wrong and only recently learned what the correct number was. So no wrong answers here, as we're all learning together.
Okay, we'll give it another 10 or 15 seconds. Thanks for doing the Jeopardy music, Kyle. That was well done.
Thanks, Craig. Yeah, that's one of my soft skills there.
That's good. That's good. Make sure that's on your resume.
I will. Yeah.
Okay, I will share the results.
Okay, nice. I love the difference in answers here. Unfortunately, the answer isn't 0%, which nobody guessed anyways, but that's what I was really hoping the answer would be, but unfortunately it's not that. The correct answer is 5%. We're going to go into more of that, into what that actually entails, because there's some asterisks, right? Yes, the minimum is 5%, but there's some other things that go along with that, because that is the true minimum. We had some people that said the 5%, and we had the 8 folks who chimed in at the 20%. At the 20%, you're not necessarily wrong, okay? And we're gonna cover that in the next slide or so. So we'll go over that, make sure we understand. And when we're talking about that, as we get into the higher percentage, the 50%, that's sometimes what it feels like. It feels like that if I want to own a $500,000 home, they're making me save up half of the money. But don't worry, that's not the case. But yes, I absolutely agree that sometimes it feels like they want me to have 50%. Awesome. Thanks everybody for that. So when we look at, steps to buying a house, okay, so we're going to talk about down payment, stable income, having a good credit score, and getting a mortgage, okay? It'll be very important to know how much of a down payment you can afford. As we just said, the minimum amount in Canada is 5% of the purchase price. But if you don't pay at least 20% of the purchase price with your own money, you must buy mortgage default insurance. So those folks who answered in the poll there with 20%, you weren't necessarily wrong. That because if you less than 20, you need to purchase, you're required legally to purchase the mortgage default insurance. But the very, very bare minimum amount is 5%. Okay. It's very wise to get pre-approved for your mortgage to have a better idea as to what you can afford. Your real estate agent may even require this before you begin to search. We're going to go over that more in a few slides, but that may be necessary as well. There's a lot of lingo when you're getting a mortgage. We're going to go over that as well. Working here in the car business, sometimes I forget that people don't speak the lingo, and there's a lot of special terms and things that we use that a mortgage broker may use or a real estate agent may use. So we're going to go over some of that lingo as well, so you can also be an insider. Okay, so going over down payment. Okay, and some of the different things that we need to cover with the down payment here. So your down payment can be as low as 5% if your house costs less than $500,000. Okay, the amount of the down payment goes up if the house of the cost exceeds $500,000. So for that $500,000 home, yes, it's the 5% minimum, but otherwise that amount does change. Okay, you can build your down payment up through regular savings, which would be my route. You can also have a gift from family or friends, but I think a lot of folks are in the boat where they're going to be on their own doing this, and that's what we want to make sure we cover is, how can I best achieve this being on my own here. One of the best vehicles, I say vehicles, pun intended, one of the best avenues in which you can save for a home is a tax-free savings account. That can be a great source of down payment for a house. A tax-free savings account, better known as a TFSA, okay, allows for you to save money into an account with no tax consequences or other penalties when you withdraw the money, as long as you're not removing a contribution you deposited in the same calendar year. The current limit on a tax-free savings account is $6,000 per year, and I believe actually this year it was increased to $6,500 for this year. Okay. There's many government programs available to help you with the down payment as well, and we'll go over more of that in section 3 when we talk about government assistance. Saving for a down payment is a great example of budgeting and a goal-setting exercise. So make sure to make a plan to save for a down payment, and sure to be realistic and specific in how you will achieve your goal. So I know we cover this a lot at Mohawk. I'm sure that you've been in a program where you've gone over this, but you want it to be a SMART goal, S-M-A-R-T, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound, okay? It will take several years to save for your down payment. Don't feel this is going to happen overnight. I've been working on it since I moved out at 21, and several years later, I'm still working to save for a down payment, okay? It's not going to happen overnight, but what's important is that you have a plan in place. And you want to make sure that along the way, you celebrate successful milestones in your saving towards a down payment. And then that way, you celebrate the little wins, and that big win of the, finally owning your first home is going to feel that much better. So Also, as you're proceeding down your journey to save for down payment, make sure to be eliminating other high cost debts and practicing good money habits. Make sure, like we've said again, you have a built up emergency fund, 3 to 6 months worth of expenses before buying a house as well. This is going to serve you very well. Now, in terms of the saving, having goals, like I said, this is not a seminar where we're going to tell you, like, one of the government ministers, cancel your Disney Plus subscription, you're going to save all this money. But there are some good notes to take away from that. One thing that I really have kept an eye on and has really helped me with saving a couple extra dollars here and there is not allowing my free trials that I sign up for to go into the next months. So one of the best personal recommendations I can make on that is, say you sign up for something that has a free trial. Anytime I do is as soon as I click yes, set up free trial, say it's 30 days, I'll go, hey Siri, set a reminder, 28 days from now, please cancel Amazon Prime subscription. Okay. Then I know I'm going to get the reminder on my phone 28 days from now. Oh, shoot, I've got to make sure I cancel that subscription. Okay. So like I said, we don't have to cut out all these fun things that we have in our life, but there are these little tools and tricks that we can use to be able to ensure that we're using that as well. Okay. So that's good there. Okay. So as we move on, so we're looking at stable income. So what does that mean when we say stable income, and what can we expect when we're going to save for this house, and what else is going to go into that? So most mortgage providers will want to see at least 2 years of stable income. The mortgage provider will ask for things like a pay stub, tax returns, and other evidence of your employment income. If your income is part-time, this might make it a little bit more challenging to get a mortgage, as you won't have made as much money likely as someone making full-time. But the big challenge necessarily with part-time isn't the amount of money, but the mortgage broker is looking for consistency. Am I able to show that month over month I have X amount of dollars coming in, and of those X amount of dollars, this much is allocated to my mortgage, this much is allocated to my car payment, this much is allocated to my student payment, and all those types of things. So it's less about the amount of money when we're talking about part-time income, but it's more to do with the consistency. On that note, if you have variable income, such as being paid on commission, like I am here, or through self-employment, a mortgage provider may scrutinize your mortgage application a little bit more closely. If you've had a few months or quarters for that matter, so last 3 months or so of low or no income, that will hurt your chances of getting a mortgage. So for me personally, having experienced this, being on a 100% commission pay plan for the last several years, where I need to be able to show a mortgage broker is the consistency year over year. So yes, I may be commission based, but as you can see in 2019, 2020, 2021, my income has continued to grow, or my income has remained stable. The biggest thing, if you're going into a field where you're going to be self-employed or commission based, is that if you have a bad week financially, try not to let it be a bad month. And if you have a bad month, try not to let it be a bad year. I know it's easier said than done, but you can get these lenders to look at the big picture, which is what we want them to try and do, right? So looking at the big picture is more what they're going to do. It's okay if you have a bad month here and there, but try to consistently keep everything where it's going to be more reasonable. So next we have looking at your credit score. So I would say in Canada, you need a credit score of approximately, a little bit better than 700 or so to qualify for a mortgage at most financial institutions. To give you an example, here at Mercedes-Benz, our cutoff for kind of where we start to question the loan is about a 650 credit score. So at about if it's lower than 650, we'll typically need some supporting documents. So bank statements, pay stubs, everything like that. Whereas kind of 650 plus, usually we can get an auto approval and we'll get you approved right away. So if you're looking at a mortgage, which is a bigger expenditure than a car, you're going to kind of need that credit score in the just over that 700 mark hump. So a credit score, what is a credit score? A credit score is a numerical summary of the information contained in your credit report. So this is available from Equifax or TransUnion annually for free. So you should access that, and you should be checking on that at least annually, not to get too caught up in what your score is. But my biggest reason I would recommend ensuring that you're checking on your score is to see if there's been any fraud. I've dealt with a customer before where we went and pulled their credit report to finance a vehicle, and there were several credit cards that were open in their name that they had no idea about. And if they had checked their credit score, more regularly, annually even, all the fraud on their account could have been avoided. So please make sure you're checking on your credit scores. They are available. Most of the time they're available to you even through your banking app. I bank with RBC, and I can go to my online banking online, and without hurting my score, I can check my score, see where I stand, and see a list of all my active accounts, like my rent, my car, etc. So, meeting your future goals does depend a lot on your credit score. So the two most important things that go into your credit score are payment history. So do you pay all your bills on time? Your cell phone, your hydro, your water, etc. The biggest thing is that for example, a cell phone, okay? Say you have your cell phone and your internet bundled together with Bell, okay? You're not going to build up your credit by paying those on time. It'll just be a history of payments kind of made on time and as things should be. But you can really, really hurt your credit by missing these payments. Because say it was your internet, your phone is bundled now, and you miss it 2 months in a row. Now you've been dinged for missing a payment on 2 accounts for 2 months in a row. Okay, so while they don't necessarily help build your score, they can really hurt your score. So make sure you're paying those on time. The other most important item is credit utilization. So this is the amount of debt that you have outstanding compared to your total credit available. As a rule of thumb, you want to try not to have more than 30% or so of a credit limit outstanding at any one time. So as an example, say you have a $1,000 credit card, you would not want to try to have more than $300 as a carrying balance outstanding. Things happen, life isn't perfect. We understand that. It's just a good rule of thumb. If you can kind of keep that credit utilization under 30%, you can show lenders that, yes, you can lend me money and I'm not going to go crazy with it. And I know how to pay it back and how to use the credit appropriately. For the 10% piece of the pie, for new credit and new accounts being added or credit inquiries, what we want to make sure is we differentiate between hard and soft credit checks. So one of the links that we're going to have for you to check out after is going to differentiate those two and explain the difference between those two a little bit better. But a hard check is when you authorize a lender to check your credit. So for example, a mortgage. And several of these within a month or so will count as just one inquiry. So as an example, if someone was looking for a car loan, and we send the loan for the same car to TD and to Scotiabank, that would only count as one inquiry as long as it was done within a month or so. But if I go shopping for something 1 month and I do a credit application, okay, and then a month later I go shopping again and I do another credit application, now that's 2 hard checks, okay? It won't count just as the one there. Another example would be credit card application, renting a property, new cell phone, etc. And they stay on your credit report for 2 to 3 years. A soft check is when you get your free annual report, okay? So that's if a company requires to see if you qualify for credit, an employer does a background check on you, etc. Correcting past issues will take time, okay? People looking to extend you credit will want to see 12 to 24 months of good behaviors. Paying on time for 1 month won't help you. It needs to be consistent, like a habit. The big thing here is credit is difficult to get. Once you've got it, they'll be very happy to give you more, but they are very, very quick to take it away. It's like trust in the sense that, once you've earned, it's difficult to earn someone's trust. Once you've earned someone's trust, if you're to blow it, it's difficult to get it back. Okay, so it's important to just start off on the right foot, building it. And if not, that's okay. That happens. But we want to make sure that that you take time to be able to build it back accordingly. It's not going to happen overnight. So don't beat yourself up over that. I should say on that note, it is possible to build it back. So don't let anyone tell you that, if I've toasted my credit, that's it, now it's a problem. No, you can absolutely build your credit back. Okay, so getting a mortgage. A couple of the items that we're going to cover here in getting a mortgage. A mortgage is probably the largest borrowing you will have during your life. Okay, we're talking loan of potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay, well, the bank they want to lend you the money. They're going to make some money on lending you the money. They also want to be as protected as possible. They need to make their money, but they need to make sure they don't lose all the money that they lended you as well. At the end of the day, if you don't make your mortgage payment, the bank has the ability to seize your house, but that's not what the bank or you wants. Okay, the bank wants to make money on the interest rate that they charge you versus the interest rate that they pay their customers on bank accounts or guaranteed income certificates, GICs. Okay, it's much better off for them to make the money on your mortgage, and with that in mind, they want you to be able to keep paying. Okay, so there's a couple worksheets that we'll go through. We can go through those at the end. And then there's some different resources that we have that you're able to check out, and you can kind of see how much of a mortgage potentially I could afford. We have some of those resources for you, so we'll ensure that you have those to be able to take a look and see what would be a good fit for you. So sorry, just on the last screen there, the one other thing we wanted to go over was the stress test. So the government of Canada brought in a stress test to ensure that you can afford your mortgage. This is actually a good thing. Okay, I know there's some negative connotation necessarily with a stress test. The reason for this is they don't want you to get in over your head. We'll go over the stress test a little bit more later, but it is a good thing. It is a good thing. And there are a lot of other costs to be aware of when you show up on the closing day to be able to buy your house. So mortgage default insurance. This is something that we mentioned earlier in our slides when we were talking about if we had less than a 20% down payment. So your mortgage provider will require you to buy mortgage insurance if you haven't put at least 20% down on the house you're buying. This is to protect the lender if you walk away from the property, as the lender then won't expect to lose any money when they're forced to sell your house as quickly as possible. Okay, so there's different providers of mortgage insurance. There's a Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, CMHC. There's a Genworth Mortgage Insurance, which is now called Sagan, and Canada Guarantee. So there's a couple different providers out there. This is normal to have. Of course, it's such a toss-up because of course you want to be able to avoid having to pay this extra cost for default insurance. But also we might not be able to come up with that 20%, and you just kind of got to get your foot in the door. So those are things to keep in mind as well there. So as we keep going on our mortgage default insurance here. So recall from our prior slide that your mortgage provider will require you to buy mortgage default insurance if you haven't put at least 20% down on the house you're buying. This to protect the lender if you walk away. We've gone over that. Okay. If you're buying a $300,000 house and you were to put 8% down, okay, so $24,000 on your $300,000 house, you will be required to pay an additional $12,000, okay, 4% in mortgage insurance. If you can get to a 20+% down payment on a house, it can save you the cost of the mortgage default insurance. That should be something to strive for. So if you save that money just a little bit longer, if I can put off buying a home for another 2 years, and it means I'm not going to have to take on the mortgage insurance, it's something that we should strive for. That's what I'm working for. There's other ways that you could go about having a bigger down payment as well. Is there a gift from family? Can you borrow money from an RSP? And we'll go over using the RSP in a little bit as well. So our mortgage pre-approval, this is a crucial step. It's very important to know how much you can afford. It's a good idea to get pre-approved for a mortgage before you start looking for a home, but first you need to understand, what does pre-approved mean? When your potential mortgage provider does a pre-approval process for you, this is an example of a soft credit check. So we talked about the hard and the soft credit checks. This is a soft credit check, which doesn't count against your credit score. When you go to get an actual mortgage, that's the hard credit check, where it affects where it goes onto your credit score and will impact it. A pre-approved mortgage lets you know how much you can afford, what your interest rate will be. Very important right now with the way that we just announced, Canada just announced today that they're going to increase the interest rates again today, hopefully the last time for a bit. What your interest rate will be and what will your monthly mortgage payments look like. Getting pre-approved can help narrow down your search to a specific home type, size, or neighborhood. Getting pre-approved is not a guarantee of final approval. Once you find the home you want to buy, the property still has to be evaluated to ensure the price and condition of the home are acceptable to the lender. And a lot of people will make the mistake of getting pre-approved and then going and changing their financial picture. So they'll be pre-approved for X amount, but then they'll go buy a new car. And the new car, now the new payment is $400 more. Well, now your pre-approval has changed and you should no longer consider yourself pre-approved. So there's a lot of things that go into pre-approval, but it's a fantastic place to start. And your real estate agent may require you to be pre-approved before they even go to show you houses, because that way they're able to show the potential sellers that you're a serious buyer, and they should take you coming to see the home seriously and adjust accordingly. Okay. So getting to know the lingo here. So a couple of these that we'll go over. We want to make sure we cover everything here, so we won't necessarily go over all of these here. But the biggest one that I wanted to be able to kind of cover is our first two. Okay, so our fixed and variable rate and open versus closed mortgages. So when we talk about a fixed rate, what does that mean? Fixed rate means that the rate doesn't change during the term of the mortgage. So your interest rate, what you're borrowing, doesn't change throughout your mortgage. Okay. Compared to a variable rate, this means that the interest rate fluctuates with the market interest rate. Typically, the prime rate is what we mean when we're talking about that. They may offer a cap on the variable rate, but that's a important thing to be able to note. So, for example, today when rates went up again, 25 basis points. If you got a variable mortgage, there's a good chance your mortgage payment has now gone up again. Okay, so fixed and variable rate. I'm not a big risk taker. I'm not big on risk, so I'll probably be a fixed rate mortgage when the time comes. But this is why you want to meet with professionals and see what is going to be best for you based on your circumstances and what's going to make the most sense. So the other one I want to cover here is just, like I said, open mortgage versus closed mortgage. So an open mortgage lets you pay off your mortgage in full or in part at any time without any penalties. So when you hear open loan, open mortgage, that means, say, I just had the best month at work I've ever had. I've got this extra $5,000 in disposable income. I can put that against the mortgage. Okay, and I can put it against it at any time and be able to pay that off a little bit earlier. Compares to as a closed mortgage, offers limited or no options to be able to pay off your mortgage early or in full. Okay, but because of this, it usually has a lower interest rate. So again, this is why you want to meet with the professionals and you want to determine what's going to be better for you. Am I better with a fixed? I'll go fixed mortgage, but I want it open. Okay, so I can pay off more at any time. And I want to go variable. I'll take the risk, but I want it to be closed. Okay, so there's a lot of these terms, and we can cover more of them at the end as well. But I want to make sure that we can get through all our slides here and understanding the lingo. Okay, so if we look at historical 5-year mortgage rates and what do these look like over the last few years, these can vary a lot. Okay, currently, over the last 2 years, kind of mortgage rates have been at all-time lows, but we're seeing that trend kind of change just a little bit over the last 6 to 8 months. So be careful of getting a variable mortgage, like we said, as rates really don't have anywhere else to go but up. And you kind of see that in the chart there, where we kind of hit a bottom in 2020, 2021. So where are they going to go next? What goes up must come down, kind of thing. So having a certain payment on your mortgage for the first 5 years can be very valuable too, as you'll likely earn more money over time with raises or cost of living increases to your wages. So that monthly payment can be more manageable as you make more money. Whereas if you're variable and the payment changes, well, then your increase in wage was irrelevant. We're going to include the link to this chart above. Okay, it's from Rate Hub, and it can show you the historical mortgage rates. So they have a chart builder so that you could put in what years you'd like to look at, and you can choose the time frame to be able to build those rates over time and see how things over a certain period of time, what that looked like. So CMHC and other lenders want to make sure that you don't overextend yourself. So there's 2 tests that are going to ensure that you have sufficient income to pay for your mortgage and the other costs of owning a home. So they want to take into account your income, monthly housing costs, overall debt load, kind of your debt servicing ratio. So all these things that will go into, how much can I really afford on a mortgage compared to what I feel I can afford. Some months I have more disposable income than others. And, sometimes I'm guilty of not saving that extra money and, just spending it. So those are things that we look at when they're going to look at mortgage rates, limits, and ensuring that you're protected that way. Okay. Always love a good reference there to Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance. That's how I feel right now, saving for a home. So you're saying there's a chance. The first affordability rule, as set out by the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, CMHC, we mentioned them before, right? It's part of our lingo, is that your monthly housing costs, so your mortgage principal and your interest, taxes and heating expenses, PITH, okay, principal, interest, taxes, and heating, should not exceed 32% of your gross monthly income, okay? The CMHC limit for an approval of an insured mortgage is less than 39%, okay? For condos, PITH also includes half of your monthly condo fees. So half of that in that, P and the I, the principal and the interest, in there, they're going to also include half of what you're going to have to pay as your monthly condo fees. So the sum of these housing costs as a percentage of your gross monthly income is what's called a GDS ratio, gross debt servicing ratio. It's the same as when we're approving someone for a car. Okay, what we look at when we look at a car is, okay, how much money have you told me is coming in? How much money is going out monthly? Okay, do you have a $300 credit card monthly bill that shows on your statement? Do you have $200 worth of student loans monthly? What's your monthly rent payment? Compare that against how much is coming in. How much can you afford for that payment? Now we have a Google Doc. I don't want to interrupt kind of the presentation that we got going on here. So I'm going to go back to this at the beginning on page 27 here. I'll go back to this because I want us to be able to take a look at this together. But I'll keep rolling with what we're working with now. But let me go back to that page later so we can cover that. And I want to ensure that we, there's a Google Doc that you'll have access to where you can plug in these different numbers and show how it works. So we'll go back to that right before our questions and answers. Just to be able to ensure that we're familiar with that as well. Okay, so this is the other thing that we're looking at. So total debt servicing ratio compared to your gross debt servicing ratio. Their second affordability rule, so the CMHC second affordability rule is that your total monthly debt load, including housing costs, should not be more than 40% of your gross monthly income. Okay, so their limit for an approval of an insured mortgage is less than 44%. Okay, that's what they have there. In addition to housing costs, your total monthly debt load would include your credit card interest, car payments, and other loan expenses. So that's what I was talking about when we're talking about approval for car and when we look at your total debt servicing ratio, okay? The sum of your total monthly debt load as a percentage of your gross household income is your TDS ratio, okay? And then we've kind of highlighted the differences there between the TDS and the GDS. Let me see without getting without going sideways here if we can. Want to be able to pull it up now just while we're chatting about it. Look at on Google Docs here. Bear with me for a sec here, folks. Okay, we'll go back to that at the end there. I don't want us to lose our stride, but we'll do that together, and then you'll have access to being able to do that on your own as well. So why the mortgage stress tests? What are they all about? Why do we have them, and what's their purpose? So they were introduced in 2018, and like we said, they're a good thing. They want to make sure you can pay your mortgage. They don't want to set you up to pay something that you can't pay. These tests make sure that if the interest rates increase, keep in mind they're at an all-time low, so we're probably going to see an increase. You can still afford to pay your mortgage. So as of June 1st, 2021, they actually tightened up the stress test rules. And the stress test is the same for both insured and uninsured mortgages, okay? So it's very important that when we talk about the stress test, we remember these are a good thing, and they want to ensure that you know if things were to change that you can still afford it. So when you start this process and you're talking about your pre-approvals and you talk about the stress test, if they say you can't pass the stress test, don't be offended by that. You know, that's important. They want to making sure that you can pay off the mortgage if things were to change. Other closing costs. This is probably the biggest nail for me when it comes to buying my first home. Is one thing to be able to save for a home, but you want to make sure that you save for all of these other items that are going to come up upon closing as well. So you know, I know this isn't the budgeting workshop, but for me, I've got one account where I'm saving for the down payment, and then I've got one account where it's for the other closing costs, and I send money to each of them accordingly. So obviously I don't send as much to the closing costs account as I do for the down payment account, but you do have to make sure that you account for these and that you're saving for these. So what are some of the other closing costs that we can expect to have? There's going to be a land transfer tax, and that's going to be about 1% on the first $250,000 of a house in Ontario. And if you're living in Toronto, if you're buying your home in Toronto, that charges a similar amount on top of the Ontario cost. So it's twice the land transfer tax if you're in Toronto. Sounds about right, the cost of living there. You know, your prepaid property taxes and utility bills. You're going to want to get a house inspection, right? Make sure someone who's a professional comes in and checks on the foundation of the home and that you're buying a solid home. You're probably going to need a property appraisal. Your mortgage broker will probably ask for that to ensure that they're insuring a home that is worth that much. Legal fees, you know, so you're going to have a lawyer look over all the paperwork. That could be anywhere from $500 to $1,000. There's going to be a land surveying fee to make sure you know where the property line ends and everything like that. That's probably going to be $1,000 to $2,000. You're going to want new home warranty as well. That could be about $200. You're going to have insurance on the title, so you're going to put the home in your name, and then you're going to want to ensure that that's insured. That title is insured in your name. That's going to be probably another $300. Then you've got your moving costs, repairs, everything like that. I know it seems overwhelming when we lay it all out like this, but it's about getting back to basics with your budgeting. And okay, how can we put X amount of money here and X amount of money there to be able to save for the home accordingly. Okay, so key takeaways from this section is we want to know how much we can afford. Let's get pre-approved, and let's understand all the mortgage aspects, you know, the lingo and everything that goes into the mortgage and why all of these things are so important. So before buying a house, make sure you prepare your monthly budget to ensure you can afford all the costs, right? Property tax, home insurance, etc., as we don't want to be put in a position, like we said earlier, where we have to sell because we're not able to afford the home anymore. Okay, assistance in buying, my favorite section. This is what we've been waiting for, our last section, assistance for you. There are several government programs, both federal and provincial, available to you to help you buy a house, okay? You'll also likely want to get the assistance from a real estate agent when buying your first home. And also a mortgage broker might be able to help you get a better rate or a mortgage more suited to your needs, okay? So here's what we're going to cover in this section. So we're going to go over government assistance, real estate agents, and primary bank and or mortgage brokers. So federal government assistance. So what we're going to cover here is the 6 different current federal assistance programs. So number 1 through 3 can directly help provide you with some of your down payment. And the other items are kind of meant more to offset the costs of buying and moving. So when we talked about some of those other closing costs, that's kind of what 4 through 6 are all about. Whereas 1 through 3 are, meant to directly help you save some money for your down payment there. So first we have the home buyer's plan, okay? So this is a great way to help you with your down payment. Recall that if you don't put down 20% as a down payment, you need to pay the egregious default insurance that we described earlier. So the home buyer's plan, HBP, is a program that allows you to withdraw from your registered retirement savings plan. These are very commonly known as RRSPs, okay, to buy or build a qualifying home for yourself or for a related person to you with a disability. So you can borrow, because keep in mind, when money grows within your RSP, it's growing tax-free unless you withdraw it, okay, or until you withdraw it. You can borrow for your first home up to $35,000 from your RRSP with no tax consequences, okay? You won't have to pay a tax on that money you've withdrawn. And you pay that back equally within 15 years. So even though you're borrowing the money from yourself, right, you have to pay it back to the RSP, or you're going to have to pay taxes on that amount, okay? If you don't pay it back, and we cover that now, if you don't pay it back within 15 years, any unpaid amounts are added back to your current year income, and you'll pay tax on the amount. So absolute worst case is that you just pay the tax on it, and if that's 7-8 years from now, you're probably in a better spot. You might have some equity in the home. That might not be the end of the world. And if you can use this to be able to get your foot in the door, to be able to get things started, it might be a way to do it. I know it's what my parents did when they bought their first home. And it was a huge contributor in being able to not have to get default insurance and pay that back to themselves over time. Now, this is what I'm most excited about. I just learned about this about 3 weeks ago, and I've screamed and shouted about it to anybody that will listen to me. So this is going to be the most exciting way for folks saving for their down payment. So the free tax-free home savings account, FHSA, is brand new this year, okay? Was put into the budget last year, and it's going to start in 2023. You will have an $8,000 annual maximum contribution limit. Important to use it because they've made it very clear that contribution room cannot be carried forward, okay? Now, where the big kicker is here is that you will get a tax reduction on the amount contributed, just like an RSP. So when I put $8,000 in my FHSA this year, $8,000 will come off of my taxable income for 2023, which is going to be huge for me, okay? And it's really, really important. You can transfer the funds specifically from an RSP, if you already have one, to the first home savings account, subject, of course, to the $8,000 yearly limit and the $40,000 lifetime limit. Now, the caveat is if you don't buy a home within 15 years, you have to close the account. And then you can either transfer what's left into an RSP or just pay tax on it if you choose, okay? So while this is a new initiative in Canada, it's received what we call royal assent. So it will take effect in April of 2023. I am going to set up a meeting with my banker on April 2nd, 2023 this year to be able to open this account, because this is one of those situations where we can work smarter and not harder to be able to save for a home. So that $8,000 contribution I make, that's going to come off my taxable income for this year. I'll get a bigger tax return next year, and then I continue to snowball that. So it's very nice to see the government kind of finally throw a bone to first-time home buyers and help us out here. Next, we have the home buyers tax credit. So this is a tax credit that you must have sufficient taxable income to be able to get the full $1,500 back from the federal government. So for houses purchased after December 31st, 2021, so that will be all of us, okay? The tax credit was you can claim $10,000 as a credit against your income for the purchase of a qualifying home in the year if both of the following apply, okay? Either the current credit rate is 15% for federal taxes, which it will be, or you or your spouse or common law partner acquired a qualifying home. Most homes will be a qualifying home, and you did not live in another home owned by you or your spouse or common law partner in the year of acquisition. So you have to truly be a first-time home buyer. You will include $10,000 as a credit in tax filing, and if your taxable income is less than the basic personal amount, then the $10,000, then plus the $10,000, you would get the full $1,500 refund. Okay, so it's just these little things that add up over time. So I bought my house, and I'm barely, I own my home, is fantastic, but I've got this hefty mortgage payment. Great. We're probably going to see an extra $1,500 the following year, which hopefully can pay your mortgage that month or at least contribute to it. And it's just, you're buying a $500,000 home. I know $1,500 doesn't seem like a lot, but it's something, and it's something. And it's very important that we take advantage of all of these things that are available to us, so that we can get every dime back that we can get from the government. Next is the first-time home buyers incentive. This is interesting. This was new to me as well, and I've looked more into it since, and it's kind of piqued my attention. So this program offers 5 or 10% of the home's purchase price to put towards as a down payment. This is in addition to your down payment and lowers your mortgage carrying cost, making home ownership more affordable. Now, though, the government in essence owns, if you will, in quotations, a portion of your home and has shares in the upside and downside of the price changes. So how it works is if the government of Canada will limit its share in the appreciation or depreciation of the home. If homeowners will pay back up to a maximum gain or loss of 8% per year on the incentive amount from the date of advance to the time of repayment, okay? So if your home, the value of your home went up 12%, you're going to have to pay back their share up to 8%, and say the value of, but on the flip side of it, if the value of your home went down 10%, it's capped at, they'll share the loss of you with only 8% per year, okay? It's a 5% incentive for all but new construction. I know they want to encourage new construction in the province. So for new construction, you may receive 5, or you can do up to 10 on a new build. So if it's a new build, you can take a loan in this situation for up to 10% of the purchase price. There's a few criteria that need to be met to determine your eligibility. Your total annual qualifying income can't exceed $120,000. Your total borrowing is no more than 4 times your qualifying income. Okay, so if you make $50,000, you can't borrow 4 times above and beyond that. You or your partner are a first-time home buyer, so you have to truly be first-time home buyers. You have to be a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or non-permanent resident authorized to work in Canada, and you meet the minimum down payment requirements with traditional funds. So savings, RSP, or a non-repayable financial gift from a relative or family member. This was, like I said, this was new to me as well. So I'm going to go to a video for us on this. So I hope everyone can still see me here, and I'm just going to roll the video now.
Curious how the first-time homebuyer incentive works? Let's break it down. Your total borrowing, meaning the mortgage and incentive amount combined, is limited to 4 times your qualifying income. Your mortgage must be eligible for mortgage loan insurance. While a mortgage loan insurance premium is applied, it's excluded from the total borrowing calculation. Your down payment contribution must be a minimum of 5%. Meanwhile, your down payment has to be less than 20% when combined with the incentive amount. The Government of Canada is participating in the transaction with you, which is why the incentive is registered as a second mortgage on the property. There are, however, no regular principal payments, it bears no interest, and it has a maximum term of 25 years. Here's an example. Let's assume you're purchasing a $200,000 home and you receive a 5% incentive equivalent to $10,000. If your home value increases to $300,000 by the time of repayment, your payback amount would be 5% of the current value, or $15,000. On the other hand, if your home's value decreases to $150,000, your repayment amount would decrease to $7,500. You'll need to repay the incentive after 25 years, or when you sell the property, whichever comes first. You can also repay the incentive in full at any time without penalty. If you refinance the first mortgage, it won't trigger a repayment. For additional details, visit placetocallhome.ca. To learn how to apply, check out the last video in this 4-part series.
So I would definitely recommend taking a look at some of those resources that were posted for that incentive. Like I said, it was new to me, and it was something that I wasn't familiar with. So I would recommend seeing what you can find out about that and doing some homework if it might be the right fit for you. I'm kind of torn on the incentive. I think it's a very helpful idea. Do I want to have the second mortgage on the home? I have to repay the government. But then again, if I'm getting into my first home, maybe I just shouldn't just worry about it. So it's a great concept. And I would definitely encourage you to learn a little bit more and take a look on if that might be the right fit for you or not. So next are our GST HST new home purchase major renovation rebate. So as an individual home buyer and not a corporation or business partnership, they're eligible for this rebate if your home is listed as your primary place of residence and you've purchased a new or substantially renovated, so greater than 90%, single, semi, condo, townhouse, mobile, or modular home from a builder, or you purchased a share of interest in a cooperative home, okay? The GST rebate is for up to 36% of the GST paid, up to a maximum of $6,300. So said another way, the rebate is 1.8% of the purchase price up to $350,000. The Ontario rebate is up to 75% of the provincial portion of the HST paid up to $24,000. So in another way to word it, the rebate is 6% of the purchase price up to $400,000. So once again, these are all things from the government that are available to us that are meant to help us with being able to purchase our first home. So our next one here is our moving expenses tax deduction. So this is a tax deduction that will reduce your federal taxes at the marginal federal tax rate. This deduction is available for first-time home buyers as well as anytime you move. So if you're a renter and you move, keep this in mind as well, okay? Generally, you can claim moving expenses you paid in the year if both of the following apply. You moved to work or to run a business, or you moved to study courses as a full-time student enrolled in a post-secondary program at a university a college, or another educational institution. And the other thing, the other applicant, is you have to move 40 kilometers closer to your new work or school. You can claim transportation and storage costs, such as packing, hauling, movers, in-transit storage, insurance, for household items, including boats and trailers. You can claim travel expenses, including vehicle expenses, meals, and accommodation to move you and your household members to a new home. So this is another tax deduction that is available to us. Like I said, there's different criteria here. You have to be moving 40 kilometers closer, but that's really not that far. I mean, I work in St. Catharines. Going from Hamilton to St. Catharines, that's 60 kilometers one way. So if you are moving, I know most of us here are probably enrolled in full-time studies. See if you qualify for that. And if you have some receipts, make sure you have the receipts, because as much as they may just leave you alone, if you do claim this, the government does have the ability to be able to ask for the receipts to be able to prove it. Okay. Now there may be some other provincial government assistance as well. This is where it's important, your real estate agent, your lawyer, your mortgage provider or broker should be able to provide you with these additional details, because they want to work together with you to have you be able to buy your house. Okay. So this is the one that we have in. On that note, this is one that's available in Ontario. So this is our land transfer tax rebate. Land transfer tax is probably going to be the biggest upfront additional cost to buying a home. This rebate is only for first-time home buyers, and it may offset the land transfer tax costs for medium price homes, kind of middle price homes. For Ontario, your lawyer during your closing should be able to help ensure this rebate is just automatically applied. That way you won't be out of pocket for the cost at all, and makes it much simpler. That's why it's important, you always want to work with people who are reputable and ensure they know what they're doing. And we've got some additional ones for Toronto as well, and there'll be some links included in our resource sheet that will include you to be able to have that as well. There's some other rules for BC, but in Ontario, it's a little bit more straightforward. And you want to make sure that you're going to receive, let's be realistic, most of the homes that we're going to be looking at purchasing are probably going to be greater than that 368,000 mark. So we want to ensure you receive that maximum refund of 4,000. Your other assistance in buying your first home, you need your Phil Dunphy. You need your real estate agent and your primary banker and or mortgage broker. Okay, real estate agents. So you don't pay the cost of a real estate agent as a buyer. It's a common misconception that there's going to be a cost to you to be able to enlist a real estate agent to help you buy your first home. When purchasing a home, any home, whether it's your first or your third, you should always work with a real estate agent. Why? They're knowledgeable. They can ensure you follow all the steps. The realtor can help you find reputable professionals. If you're moving to another city, maybe you don't have a lawyer in the new city, they'll be able to connect you with people that'll be able to work with you and make sure that you're looked after. A realtor can get you information needed to make an informed decision. So comparable prices, neighborhood trends, housing market conditions, and more. They also have access to the MLS system, multiple listing services. Okay. That is used to find cooperative brokers to work with buyers. It also shows them the list of existing offers on the home and the previous sales. So they're able to know directly when that home sold 3 years ago, what did it sell for compared to what are they asking for the home now. Real estate agents will know the local market conditions, and to insert in a contract and ensure that all the correct steps are taken to help you buy your first house. A real estate agent will know the local market. So you're going to be in a place where, because it's not coming out of your end of purchasing the home, I can't recommend enough that you use a real estate agent. Now, another partner in this process is probably going to be your primary bank. Your bank may be able to help. So banks like to have more relationships, products with when we say relationships, we mean products. How can we be your one-stop shop for everything, so that they might offer you a preferred rate. And your bank probably already has all your information, like your current employer, your recent tax returns, etc. That will help make the process easier. And then this way too, you just set up your automatic payments to pay your mortgage. And if it's already at your primary bank, then everything's coming and going out of one spot, and it's much easier. Another good relationship to have in this process is a mortgage broker. So it's similar to insurance broker. A mortgage broker is a good source of information when you're looking to get your mortgage. Mortgage brokers are available for you at your financial institution, but some brokers operate separately from banks and on their own. So they don't know, the Dominion lending centers, all these other different places. Getting an independent broker might provide you with more mortgage options, rates, and terms. And given the fact that you don't pay for a mortgage broker, as they're paid by the lender, they paid a commission once they've set up the mortgage. It's a great idea to contact one, even if you just use it to compare the rates and terms. That way, that there's some competitive tension and that everybody's working to be able to get you the best rates possible. Okay, so our key takeaways from that section is we covered government assistance. There's lots of government programs to help you buy a house. A real estate agent can be helpful, can help a lot on a first purchase, and you don't pay them directly. And a primary bank and or a mortgage broker can be very helpful in getting a better rate and or the appropriate mortgage for you. Okay. In summary, we're coming to the end here. What did we cover today? We did three very important topics. First section, we talked about the differences specifically related to costs when renting a home versus buying a home. We discussed the 7 steps process to purchase a home while discussing some key ratios and calculations you should use when determining your mortgage eligibility. And the third and final section, we discussed 3 attainable assistance programs which are made available to you to make purchasing a home that much easier, right? So we went over the pros and cons, making sure you have your large emergency fund, many pros to owning a house, but there are several cons. When we're talking about steps to buying a house, know how much you can afford, get pre-approved, make sure you understand the lingo, and make sure you're looking at all the total costs when you go to buy. And assistance in buying, our key takeaways here is there's lots of government assistance. Work with the real estate agent, work with the broker, and to be able to help all that. So we hope with your learning objectives today that you feel more comfortable, you have a better understanding of how much you can afford, the government programs that are available, and other service providers that can help. So what's our next steps? Now what? Let's get right to action. So we learned all this. Now let's put it into play. Number 1 is, do your best you can to begin saving for a down payment. Easier said than done, I know, trust me. The earlier you start saving, the better off you're going to be. One way, and this is a way that I try to do it, is by starting a phantom mortgage. Okay. So what this is you take how much your monthly mortgage you think is going to be and start putting that away monthly. And then, now have it already set in your budget, that monthly mortgage amount, but know that you've been saving it as well. Okay. Determine which type of home you can afford to eventually purchase. And remember that location here is important as well. I live in Hamilton. Do I maybe need to move out to Grimsby? If I go the other way to Brantford, will I be able to afford a little bit of a nicer home? Consider all that as well. Know the government programs that are out there. Understand which of the programs are there to help you. And lastly, you can always check out more program resources. There's lots of additional resources on our handout as well. As we go to Q&A here, this is a formal presentation. That's the end of it. Thank you everyone so much for tuning in today. I had a lot of fun. As much as I wish we could have been in person. Life's changed over the last 3 years, and it was nice to be able to have a Zoom seminar here. Just one last note for me before we go on to, if you have any comments, questions, queries, or concerns, is make sure that you fill out your post survey, okay, so that you can ensure that answer those and be able to get your Tim's card as well. Okay, so just checking in here. I hope that we got some questions here. Yeah, Kyle, I'm telling you, I can't believe that we don't talk about this in school. It just should be in high school, in my opinion. Teach this in school. Yeah, well, that's why we're here. We're working on it as best we can, and hopefully this is ends up being the equivalent to it being in school. So it seems for now we don't have any questions. So please reach out at any time if you do have any that come up. Okay, buy our first house. No, Kyle, not necessarily. For example, when I'm looking at doing someone's approval for a loan or for a car, when the lender asks, are they married, common law, single, etc., it has married and common law in one bracket. So it's got married / common law. So most lenders won't look at that as a prerequisite. As long as you declare what you are, we are common law, we are married, we are whatever the case may be. Most lenders will lump common law and married into the same bracket there. Awesome. Okay. Any other questions that we had in the chat there? Okay, well, if any do come up, we'll ensure that contact information and everything is shared as well. While I'm not a mortgage broker, I know lots of them. And I do lending every day. So I'm very happy to help however I can. And we have some great resources at the college too, with Alexandra and Deborah and the team there, as well as the team at CFEE as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in today. And I hope we can host another one soon.